This will be a short tutorial on how to install an eye. So I have my fursuit head here. I've got it somewhat trimmed. You actually want to trim around the eye socket as close as possible. You don't want any little extra hairs that'll get in your eyes, of course. We're going to be covering this area up with a little bit of fleece. I actually have on the other side. That's finished up. It's okay if any edges are kind of ugly, that's going to get covered up by your eye. So that is what it will look like after I show you here. But first we're going to trim this just a little more. You can use scissors, you can use a razor. Try not to cut outside of your eye socket. We're just cutting on the inside here to make sure that where we glue our fleece, it's going to stick well. So I have cut a small piece of fleece, just a narrow piece, just about as deep as my eye socket here. I cut it on the stretchy part of the fleece. Fleece stretches one direction mainly, so you can see that this is the stretchy direction. That is so I get good coverage when I push it down around the inside, and so that it'll open up that eye socket a little bit more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to estimate how much, and then I'm going to sew this small piece. So looks like about like that. So we're going to be working with a low temp glue gun. This is because we're going to be pressing this down on the inside, and because this isn't a very thick material, we don't want to burn ourselves. So I'm going to start out by putting a bead of hot glue all the way around the center line of the piece we've just sewn. And now I'm going to carefully put it on the inside of my mask here. Trying to not touch the fur on the outside. Now I'm going to take my hands and spread it open as much as possible. That's where the stretch is going to help you out. As the glue cools, it will cool closely to the mask as it's stretched open, so you'll have a slightly bigger eye socket than you originally thought. Not by much, but it'll help. So there we have a nice open eye socket. Next we're going to go on the inside of the mask and glue down the edges on both the inside and the outside. So here we have the inside of the mask. This is a foam mask, so I just about almost turned it inside out to be able to access this without having to reach my hands in there. It's definitely an advantage to a foam mask. I'm going to just dab glue around these edges here and slowly press them down to overlap these edges. I've actually already lined this mask, so I'm just overlapping this fleece with my liner just to make sure I have a nice clean edge. If you're worried about touching the hot glue or getting your fingers in it, You can also use tools to do this. It also helps to have a glue gun that's just warmed up. One that you've maybe just plugged in, it's only started to warm up. That way the glue is a little bit cooler and thicker as you do it, if you're really worried about it. So now I'm going to glue down the other side here. I want to be a little bit more careful with this side because this is the outside. We are going to be covering it up with our eye plastic though. So again, it's not the end of the world if any excess glue squeezes out. Just to clarify, none of this fleece is going to or supposed to show on the outside of the mask. This is just to prevent fur from getting in your eyes when you're wearing the mask. This makes the mask more comfortable to wear. I always typically recommend black fleece on the interior of any eye sockets because not only is the fleece forgiving, but the fleece itself is black, so then it won't reflect or be distracting on the inside of the mask. But there is my eye socket, and it is nicely finished on the inside and finished enough on the outside that when I place my eye plastic over the top of it, it's going to cover it nicely and it's going to look just great. I won't get any fur in my eyes, and hopefully I'll have really good vision because the pile of the fur won't be crowding my vision as I'm wearing the mask. This is the time where you want to plan out what your eyes are going to look like. So usually it's good to make some paper templates and try them out and see if you like the size or the shape. Also helps to plan out the pupil size. This one's a little bit too small. And the size of the plastic. This plastic would be a little bit too big maybe. So just using paper eyes to try it out. That way you can figure out if the shape or the size of the eye is going to be something that you want or that you like the look of. So that one looks pretty good. What I'm going to use for the eye plastic is just a white mixing bowl that I got it at Dollar Tree. They're not anything particularly special, but you do want to like try it out in the store and see if it flexes a little bit so you can hopefully cut it. You want something with a smooth curved surface. You want to make sure to check that there's no scratches or anything on the surface of the bowl that are going to affect your final product. So I've cut the bottom and the handle off of my bowl. And then I've got my template piece that I'm going to just lightly try to trace on. It doesn't make a very dark impression, but does help to have some sort of guideline. So I'm going to do a rough cut with my scissors. Trying not to crack the plastic close to my piece because some of the plastic does crack really badly. Okay, so I've got my piece rough cut. I'm going to take a smaller pair of scissors and get in a little bit closer. Now if you can't find plastic like this in your area, there's lots of things that you can use. You can use bleach bottles or things like mixing bowls, or there's also I don't know, white plastic trash cans that have big vast flat sides that work excellent. You can also go to a place called Tap Plastics and order sheets of plastic from them. They come in different colors too. So there's lots of choices for plastic. If you think it might work, it probably will. You do want something that's relatively hard. I like this because it's shiny, it gives a nice toony appearance. I also like the bowls because they're curved a little bit. If you have a flat piece, you can also dip it in boiling water to soften it up, and then that way you can manipulate your piece. Let it be the shape you want. Making eyes is one of those things that benefits from experimentation. If you want to try something new, do something that might work, try it out. Share it with everybody else. Might be the next big thing. So here is my plastic. This is what it'll look like on my mask. Looks pretty plain right now. So I'm going to cut another piece. It helps to have the first piece available to match up that curve. I usually trace from the piece that I just cut. Stuff likes to crack really badly, so I'm just cutting it pretty far away. Get in a little closer with my smaller pair of scissors. Just periodically matching these up together to make sure that I've got the right size, and trimming the bigger one. I want them to be as close to the same size as possible. And what I like to do, take a fairly sharp razor blade and just get those little edges where the scissors trimmed it and smooth those out. Alright. So here's what I have for my eye plastic. Fits right nicely right over my edges that are there. And now I'm going to be tracing on and cutting out my pupils. To cut the center of your pupil out, you can use a Dremel and a cutting tool, and you can cut out the center of your eye. You want to make sure to use protection, just to make sure that if your plastic melts, it doesn't make a gross smell or anything like that you're going to inhale. Also, always use your Dremel on the inside, just in case you miss and skip across the plastic. You're not going to be affecting the outside. Some of the plastics have a really low melting point, so you'll have a little crust that kind of happens. I always go back with a razor blade and clean up my hole, because this honestly looks like a pretty terrible hole, but for the sake of getting the opening in a quick way, Dremel is a pretty good way. Another way you could do it is with a razor blade, of course, if you're safe about it. But the Dremel works pretty well. You can use the cutting tool or the grinding tool, whatever works best for you. So I've got most of my whole rough cut here, and I've actually switched to wearing some safety glasses as well. I'm going to be using the grinding tool to grind away some more of the opening. Alright, now that I've covered my house and myself in tiny plastic shavings, I'm going to take this razor blade and clean up the edges just a little bit. The Dremel tends to leave little burrs and stuff behind, and I like to use a snap-off blade because then I can get the sharpest possible blade. Plus they're inexpensive, and they're just good to have for cutting fur and other stuff. But this will give you a nice crisp inside edge of your pupil and iris area. If you don't have a Dremel, you certainly can use one of these snap-off blades to carve out the inside. It's a little bit more difficult, but it's definitely a viable way to cut out the interior pupil. I always like to leave some material on the inner edge. That way I can glue down my buckram when I have it finished. Here is my eye, and this is going to set into my fur just enough. That edge is going to be covered, but it'll look great. I can see right out of it because it lines up right with my eye opening there. And next step, I'm going to add some eyelids and the buckram.